Hey, Freddie. Have you been waiting up this whole time?
Yeah? A goat man sends you off into the night. Your life is on the line. And I'm gonna, what, sleep? What if you were taken prisoner, kept in a cave by a cyclops, or I don't know, turned into a tree? I was worried sick.
You were worried about me? Aw.
Well, you're my best friend in the whole world, Grace. Plus, what would the band do?
Right, the band. Where are Kaz and Brian anyway?
I told them you were fine, which isn't a lie, because technically you are. Now tell me everything that happened. Huh. Persephone runs a club called the Underworld. That's a little on the nose.
I wouldn't suggest saying that to her face.
And you ended up staying with her instead of Apollo? I don't know, Grace. She sounds a little volatile.
She has her reasons. I just hope I don't end up on her bad side again.
You'll figure your way out of it. You're still you.
I am still me. That's true.
So what are your options? You need to go back to Persephone at some point?
I could go back to Apollo's as well. Make sure he's not sore about what happened.
Oh, and, there's this. Pan left a card, says, "Come by Olympus." I doubt he means the mountain in Greece.
Huh. I wonder what he wants.
Probably to cash in his precious favor.
Still not a fan?
You know how some people just set your teeth on edge? That's Pan. I can't help it. But it doesn't matter. I said I'd help, and that's what I'll do. You can count on me, Grace.
Thanks, Freddie.
The muse! Oh, the embodiment of inspiration! Can you believe it?
Yeah, kinda.
Oh, back already, are you? It's just as well. I've asked around, called in some favors, just enough to get an idea of what all the idols are currently up to. Much as I'm loath to admit it, I'm back to thinking Pan may be our prime suspect after all.
Why Pan? I thought you'd rejected him as a suspect.
I did. It doesn't seem like his style. Pan has always preferred scheming over direct confrontation. But the thing is, how did he know about you so quickly? What does he hope to gain by sticking his nose in?
A favor or two, I guess.
Half the idols owe him a favor or two. No, he's up to something else. Until I know what it is, I can't discount the possibility that he's involved in all this.
You should know. Pan asked me to meet him at Olympus. I'm not sure why.
Oh, that's interesting. Did he happen to say what he wanted?
No. He probably wants to cash in his favor.
Huh. That's what he does. Collect favors and then use them to gather even more favors. To what end, I dare not guess.
Maybe that's what went wrong with Calliope. A favor she wouldn't repay.
Or something she'd discovered and refused to conceal. Now, that would be just like her. You should go ahead and see what Pan wants. It might be useful.
Just throw caution to the wind, huh?
Somehow you'll manage. I want to send you to a party, Grace. One Aphrodite is holding. She and Eros know Pan perhaps better than anyone. If you go, it'll give you a chance to find out what he's really up to.
You know Aphrodite better than I do. Can't you talk to her?
She and I don't get along.
Like how you and Apollo don't get along?
Even more intensely than that. I once said some things about her husband. They were true, but unwelcome. Suffice it to say, if I showed up at Aphrodite's party, revealing Pan's secrets would be the last thing on her mind.
Why a party? Couldn't I just go wherever she lives and ask her?
You could, but if you go to this party, she'll be grateful. She holds it from time to time and always asked Calliope to attend, but Calliope never would. You can put two and two together. A grateful Aphrodite might be willing to tell you what Pan is really up to.
I still have that invitation from Pan. Maybe it'd be easier if I just went to see him.
You should do both. Just Don't believe a single word coming out of his mouth.
I might catch him in a lie, which is just as telling.
If so, you'd be the first.
One wild party with a goddess of love coming up.
It's less of a wild party and more of a somber affair.
You mean like a cocktail party?
Let me put it this way. Apollo will likely be there.
Gotcha. Expectations of fun downgraded considerably. I'll let you know what I find.
Grace?
Yeah, told you she'd be back.
What are you doing here? When you stayed with Persephone, I thought that... Well, I didn't expect to see you again.
I was hoping that didn't mean you were done trying to help me.
I'm not sure I've helped you. All I've done is dropped you in Persephone's lap.
What, and that's bad?
Yes. Well, no. I can never be objective when it comes to my family. They bring out the worst in me. It's why I avoid them whenever possible, and why I should have resisted getting dragged into all this.
For what it's worth, I'm sorry I dragged you into it.
It was my choice. I did what I could, though I may indeed have made things worse.
You haven't. Even if you had, isn't now the time to fix it?
Goodbye, Grace. I hope you find what you're looking for.
Fancy party? Check. Bunch of strangers? Check. Grace totally not dressed for the occasion? Check. Now, if only I knew what I was supposed to be doing here.
Grace? You're here.
Yeah, I'm invited, aren't I?
I'm just surprised you even knew it was happening.
Persephone said I should come to this. Whatever this is.
Persephone didn't tell you? Why am I not surprised?
I don't like the sound of that. What am I missing?
You don't have any of Calliope's memories, right? No déjà vu recollections that aren't your own?
No. Should I have?
Not right away. For a while, you won't remember anything. We call it the veil. In time, the veil will start to lift, slowly at first, but eventually you'll remember almost everything Calliope did.
That's gotta be a lot of memories. She was, what, 1,000 years old?
More than that. Much more.
Then what happens to me in my piddly 20-something years? It can't be good.
Eventually, it's like a flood. It becomes difficult to separate what's you and what's them, and all who came before them.
I'm learning this now? What are you talking about? It sounds like drowning.
It doesn't feel that way, I promise. You'll still be you, you'll just also be everyone else.
It sounds terrible. I don't even want to think about it.
I understand. Take some time to let it sink in. If you like, we can talk about it later.
What does this have to do with the party?
Aphrodite hasn't been the same since we came to the New World. She has horrific memories of what she endured during the war. Passing on her eidolon is a way to forget, for a while. That's what this party is for.
When you say she's gonna pass on her eidolon, you mean...
She's going to die, yes, and pass her soul on to a chosen successor.
In front of everyone?
We're here to help, Grace, to make it easier for Aphrodite to do what she feels she must. We're here to say goodbye, at least for a while.
This isn't the first time Aphrodite's done this. She's held this kind of gathering before, right?
This is her 4th, I think, perhaps 5th.
So every time the veil, whatever you call it, when it starts to lift...
Aphrodite's memories return, and eventually it is too much. We gather to pay our respects and to honor the past. Well, she still remembers it.
Do you support what Aphrodite is doing here?
It's not my choice to make, Grace.
Yeah, but you must have an opinion.
Eventually you will remember what we experienced during the war, and eventually you will remember that what Aphrodite experienced was far worse. If this is the mercy she requires, I will not tell her she should not take it.
Wait. Persephone said Calliope always refused to come to these parties.
She refused on principle. Everything Calliope did was on principle. She believed Aphrodite was indulging her sadness, wallowing in it. She thought Aphrodite should try harder. It was a point of contention between them. Aphrodite will be grateful you're here. Trust me.
Okay, so what did Aphrodite want Calliope to do? What did she want me to do?
Well, knowing Aphrodite, she'll want you to make a production of it all. She's not here just yet. Until she arrives, I suggest mingling.
Mingling.
Yeah, mingling. Talk to Eros. Or we can talk more if you like. Just try to relax, Grace.
Sure, yeah. Relax. That's what this party is for, right?
Grace!
Hey, Eros. Nice to... Oh. Okay.
Aphrodite will be so happy you're here. It means so much you have no idea.
Apollo told me. Calliope always refused to come to these things, right?
Yeah, no matter how much Aphrodite begged. Every time she does this, I don't know how to handle it. I almost want to run upstairs and demand she stop. Remind her that this never works. Sorry, I shouldn't unload on you. It's been a bad week.
From the sounds of it, this happens a lot.
Every 20 years or so. That's how long she can hold out until she just can't stand it anymore. Every time, Aphrodite forgets. At least for a while. But I don't. I remember everything. I'm there for the nightmares, the panic attacks, the days she doesn't even remember the war's over. And now I'm arranging her gathering again, so she can die again. And I'll watch it all again.
Is it okay if I ask what happened? I don't mean to pry, but I'm new. I really don't know.
I know, but it happened to Aphrodite, not me. It's not my story to tell.
That's fair. It's really not my business.
No, it is. I mean, it's not, but she does want you here. So you need to know. What happened is that Brother Ares happened. He missed out on the first world-spanning war, you see, so he was damned if he'd miss out on the next one. He found some jack-booted mortals, so full of themselves and their supremacy. And he told them about the idols. Then they came for us. Took us completely by surprise. Some they killed, but Aphrodite, her they captured.
Oh.
Yeah. Oh.
Aphrodite was captured, but she's here now. So she must have escaped.
She didn't. Do you know the name Hephaestus?
Wasn't he a smith of some kind? Giant hammer, lived in a mountain?
Some of that is mortal fancy, but yes. He was Aphrodite's husband, and he adored her beyond reason. When he found out the mortals were torturing her, He went mad. He was determined to save her.
Wait, they tortured her?
Nothing extreme, I'm told. They were too frightened, but they were also determined to wring every last secret out of her. So, who knows how long that fear would have lasted. Thus, Hephaestus made a deal.
With the, jackbooted guys.
No, with their enemies. That's what saved her.
Then this deal is how Aphrodite survived.
It's how we all survived. It's what brought us to the new world. Hephaestus saved us all. We never saw him again. That was the deal. He would leave, make their precious weapons, and never look back. Aphrodite never even got to say goodbye. It's funny, because Aphrodite didn't even like Hephaestus when they were married. She seemed to resent every minute they were together. But now he's all she can think about.
Is there no other way? Does Aphrodite really need to...
To die? I've asked that so many times. She's tried magic, drugs, psychotherapy, meditation, everything we could possibly think of. For a while, she'll deny anything's wrong. It all seems fine, and I start to hope. Maybe this time will be different. Then the nightmares begin, and the memories return. More with each passing day until... I hate it, but I see her agony. I can't deny her this.
Maybe I just don't understand, but... Isn't this... like suicide?
Some of the idols have committed suicide. They let themselves die without passing on their eidolon.
What happens?
What you'd expect. They're gone. Forever. Mother says she can't do that. She won't. Not until she sees Hephaestus again, I suspect. Not that what's happening here is anything casual. She still has to die. For a while.
You sound like you don't approve of what Aphrodite's doing.
What I want is for her to not hurt anymore. What I want is for this to end. She'll ask you to use your power as part of the celebration. Could you use it to inspire her?
I can't force anyone to do anything they don't want to, Eros.
That's not what I'm asking. I believe that deep down, she doesn't want to do this any longer. She must see it isn't working. She just needs the strength to try. Or I hope that's all she needs.
It's not up to me, Eros. I can't make that decision for her.
I know. Neither can I. I was only hoping Aphrodite could make that decision for herself, if she was inspired.
I don't know.
It's a lot to ask. I'll understand if you can't. All I want, one way or another, is to get through tonight.
I know all these people, Grace. For as long as I can remember, I've known them. Yet sometimes I feel like I don't know any of them at all. Or they me.
I spoke to Eros. He's pretty broken up over all this.
Oh, poor Eros. Each new successor, his hopes rise up once more. And then he watches the new Aphrodite crumble. Piece by piece. Only to start all over again. It's so different from the olden days. Once he was the eternal disaster, and Aphrodite kept constant vigil over him.
Maybe he feels like he owes her.
I think he's followed her into a dark void, and somewhere, deep down, believes he deserves no better.
You don't enjoy these family gatherings, do you?
Are they family gatherings? Like the sort mortals have?
You call each other sister and brother and mother.
Well, yes, but...
And you've been together like 100 times longer than I lived with my family. All you're missing is a drunk uncle everyone has to apologize for.
That would be Pan. But yes, I feel very much out of place.
That's kind of sad.
What is?
Spending an eternity among people you can't even stand to be with at a party.
Well, now I need another drink.
I should get back out there.
My family. Having you all here, gathered once again to see me off, it moves me. More than I can say. My loves, my darlings, my dearest friends. And you. Oh, my dear sweet thing. I dare not hope that you, with all your troubles, might sing me to my sleep. Yet here you are. Yet here she is. Huh.
It's lovely to meet you, Aphrodite. Properly, this time.
Ah, yes. Poor Calliope. Such a loss to us all. I shall miss her dearly. To have come so far, only... No, it doesn't bear thinking about. It's too much.
Is this Grace, my lady? The new muse?
Oh! What manners I have! Grace, Grace, meet the lovely mortal woman who shall tonight become the new me.
Hi, my name's Venus, and yes, it really is Venus. Nice to meet you, Grace.
Hi. So, you're okay with this? You know what's gonna happen?
Of course. We've been working together, preparing for, 6 months now? Has it only been that long?
Must be nice to be prepared.
Ooh, I'm so sorry. Lady Aphrodite told me. I should have thought about that.
There will be so much time for you lovelies to speak later. Now, we must prepare for my departure.
Are you sure we can't talk first? I really need your help, Aphrodite.
I know you do, my dear. I wish I could be there for you, but I'm afraid my time is up. But since you've shown such kindness in coming, I will ask Eros to make himself available to you afterwards. There's nothing I know that he does not. He is my son, my truest friend, my longest love.
Won't he be a little distracted?
Eros has been through this before, Grace. He knows what must be done.
Are you sure you want to go through with this? I mean, you seem okay.
Oh, thank you. I'm pleased to hear that my smile is still convincing.
Oh, I didn't mean to say it wasn't. It's just... This is a lot, isn't it?
Oh, is that a note of disapproval I hear?
It's not really my place to approve or disapprove, I guess.
I understand and I appreciate your concern, but I don't want tonight to be about my pain. So I have nothing but smiles and love for all my family. Now, do you know the true purpose of this gathering? Have any of them told you?
If I had to guess, it's to remember. One last time before all your memories go away.
Each time the veil lifts, it leaves behind a little less. For me, old Olympus is long forgotten. The glory of Rome, a distant dream. I hope that one day the veil will lift, and what happened during the war will also slip into oblivion.
But it hasn't.
Thus, for now we honor the memory of what was, lest tomorrow it be gone forever. Go! Enjoy the gathering, Grace! Tell me when you're ready to begin.
Back again.
I don't think I'll have a chance to talk to Aphrodite. Not before, you know.
Not surprising. Surely Persephone must have realized that.
How? She's never been to one of these things. Anyway, I'm not sure what I'd do now.
You have two choices, Grace. Either you do as she asks and sing her to her rest,
At which point Venus won't have Aphrodite's memories yet.
or you somehow convince her to remain with us and hope she's grateful.
And doesn't regret it. Or get angry at me for ruining her party.
Do what you feel is right. It's a risk either way.
I should get back out there.
I want to apologize again, Grace. I really messed up. It looks like I'll be doing that a lot. Lady Aphrodite said I'm ready, but I don't know.
Having second thoughts? If so, now's probably the time to mention it.
I would never do that to Lady Aphrodite. I'm just nervous.
That's understandable.
If I can ask, what does it feel like after it happened? Do you feel different?
I'm not sure. It happened so fast I didn't know what to think. Calliope died and then all this happened.
You didn't remember anything? About her? Who she was? She was just gone?
Yeah. Isn't that the point of all this?
I just wanted to be sure. Sometimes it doesn't seem like it could be real.
How do you know Aphrodite exactly?
So I was working at this homeless shelter, right? A couple of years ago, and she came in with one of the older residents. And she was there in this, like, amazing dress. And she's sitting with this guy and really listening to him. Like, they were old friends or something. I just thought, what is someone like her doing in a place like this? So, I just went over and introduced myself.
That's it? Just like that.
Yeah. She came back to the shelter a few times, but by then, I guess she'd taken an interest in me instead.
Your name's really Venus, huh?
Everybody asks me that. Even the other idols. Maybe that's why Lady Aphrodite noticed me in the first place. She says it was fated to be. I say it's because my mama was a diehard hippie.
You said earlier you're okay with all this, but how can you be?
I saw a lot of people in crisis at the shelter. I knew something was wrong with Lady Aphrodite. She's in so much pain, Grace. She won't let you see how much. Eros called me one night desperate. She wouldn't stop screaming. She didn't know where she was. She's a good person, Grace. A good soul. She deserves mercy.
I get that you want to help Aphrodite, but do you really want to be her? To be an idol?
At first I thought, wow, this is too good to be true. Who wouldn't want to be a god? Later I realized they're not all powerful. They don't know everything. They're lost. Do I want to be that? Will I be that when the memories return? I don't know.
So why go through with it?
Because Lady Aphrodite needs me. Maybe, just maybe, if I'm added into the mix of all the people she's been, maybe things will be different.
I have tried so hard.
fought for so long. But in the end, I must bid you all farewell once again. But before I go, I would like us all to remember the sacrifices that brought us here to this strange new world. This time, it is with the help of our lovely muse that we shall be guided. We let them rise. We let it happen. We waited far too long. We thought we shouldn't intervene. We were wrong. We were wrong. Since the beginning we were hidden. We held court from up above. 'Twas the golden age of reason, and I the queen of love. But a plague of hate was spreading, and there were vultures standing by. Before we fell to our knees begging, we fell from the sky. We let them rise, we let it happen. We waited far too long. We thought we shouldn't intervene. We were wrong. We were wrong. We sought shelter from the shadows, but were soon ripped from the dark. Those mortal souls that ended us were jealous from the start. They hunted me for power to fuel their psychopathic cause. And once they fell before me and worshipped all I was, they chased me down and threw me in a cage, held me prisoner for so long. I thought I'd win their hearts again. I was wrong. I was wrong. Oh, the power of the idols pounds within your chest. But for now I am in mourning for a love gone unexpressed. He was harder than a chisel. I was a horrid block of ice. A winter's chill that stayed until he made his sacrifice. The man that I ignored saved me when I fell. Yes, the husband I abhorred rescued me from hell. I thought it was a joke when it was said to me. He struck a deal with our enemy's enemy, made a secret weapon so my captors let me go. He gave up his freedom, leaving just a memory, and this love I'll never know is what he gave to me.
I can see everything, it's interesting why you feel so blue. Because of the horror show from long ago, there ain't no getting through. A husband who sacrificed and paid the price for you to be free. Wherever he is right now, you'd think somehow that...
Excuse me.
Sorry, I'm on a roll. I don't pretend to know the mind of a god. That's something I never thought I'd say. I'm not the only one here who wants to know. Is leaving now the only way to go?
I'm confused. Who are you? Thank you for sharing, little one. You're 80 years overdue. Now take your seat, you've had your fun. I think you'll find I'm a god. Making note of the staggering lack of help. And so no matter what you think you know, this ceremony is the only way to go. Apologies for the inappropriateness of the style that we're in. Nevertheless, let's push on and introduce to you all everybody's hero, Venus. She's my protector, and soon you will see. In just a moment, I won't be me anymore. No memory of war, in love like before, and you'll be adored. You cannot ignore, it's the only way to go.
You're letting them beat you again and again.
Only way to go.
Now look at your family, surrounded by friends.
It's the only.
I guess whatever you choose, it's so not the end.
So much
I don't know what to
said
do.
in silence,
She's
it's
onto you.
timeless, it's precious sympathy. Can
know
we,
anything,
all honestly,
a smattering,
modestly take a seat and breathe? 'Cause I'm that kind of a god. Prepare the girl for precious cargo. Just mad about their tragic puppet show. As my memory erases, so will all your faces. Oblivion's the only way to go. The only way to go.
Are you?
I'm fine. I'm still myself. I thought there'd be something more, that I feel her presence, but she's just gone.
She'll be back. But she'll also be you. She'll be different.
I'll try to be ready. I promise.
I'm really sorry, Eros. I know you wanted me to convince Aphrodite to change her mind, but...
It's all right. There's no convincing her, was there?
She didn't have the strength to fight any longer. At least, now she can rest.
I suppose that's true. Before we go, Aphrodite told me you wanted her help to learn about Calliope's death. I'm not my mother, but maybe there's something I can tell you. Do you have any suspects yet?
For starters, it has to be one of the idols.
An idol killing another idol? That hasn't happened in a while.
It had to be someone who knew Calliope and wanted her gone, with enough knowledge and power to fool the chorus. They didn't plan for Calliope to get away. I was an accident. They covered up everything else so well.
You're probably right, Grace.
You're thinking of Medusa, aren't you?
Wait, hold the phone. That chick who turns people into stone?
Yeah, that's the one.
Medusa works for Athena as, well, as a watcher. That's how Lady Aphrodite described it.
Mother always complained there was something wrong about Medusa, that she would be trouble eventually. Athena disagreed.
If you're gonna start looking into anyone, Grace, start with her.
Come now, Venus. It's been a long night. I'll get you home.
Thank you for everything, Grace. Truly. It was a wonderful song.
So, did they have anything helpful?
Maybe. What do you know about Medusa?
Medusa? That's a rather dark name to unearth. Are you thinking of seeking her out?
I am. Do you know where she is?
Not really, no. Medusa makes it her business to stay out of sight. Athena employs her as a spy master, a hound to do her bidding, a vicious hound at that. Athena's not likely to tell either of us where to find Medusa. I can't say for certain who would know. Are you all right, Grace? You seem troubled.
What Aphrodite went through, it's a lot.
Yeah, that's the funny thing about the life of an immortal. It never ends.
Wow. Way to really sell it, Apollo.
How are things with Persephone? Is she helping as much as you thought?
Yeah, I kind of like her. Way more than I thought I would. Why?
All I mean to ask is, has she said anything?
About...
No. Never mind. It's none of my business. Please forget I asked. Give my regards to Persephone when you see her.
Apollo. Always so dramatic. Well done, by the way. And cheers to you, Aphrodite. You shall be missed. For a few years, at least.
Still don't know if I did the right thing.
Well, it was never up to you, Grace. The choice has always been Aphrodite's. She's been in hell since the war. And you? You were only a visitor. I remember the last time I passed on my Eidolon. 1952. I was married to, well, say you'd call him a gangster. More of a thug. A mean, vicious little thug. Persephone saved me from him. Tore his head clean off. But not before he fired a shotgun into her chest. My chest? Whatever.
Do you remember who you were before?
I still am her. Chastity, that is. You can see why I switched names. Oh, I remember being disgusted I was ever that weak. Persephone made me strong. But it never really goes away. We all have our sordid history, our personal horrors, building up like sediment around our souls. You can't let it bury you, Grace. You are the only one who can keep your head afloat.
You're incredible. You know that?
There's no need to be facetious, Grace.
No, really.
I am incredible. It's true. It's good that you recognize this.
Okay, I take it back.
Oh, you can't take it back, Grace. I would have thought you'd learned that by now. After centuries of cruel injustice, everybody working against me, every idol but for one, violent with apathy. We couldn't reach a resolution, but you and I, I'm queen of the underworld, and you praise you. Something seems familiar about you. Have we met Gods like me don't have too much to hope for. The rules been fixed throughout the ages. So I have forged a daring path. I would like to make some changes. You see, we can win a revolution, you and I, you and I. I'm queen of the underworld, and you, Grace,
You are a queen, you're old, you're dominion, and in my opinion, you're on the right track. It sounds like they heard you, defied or usurped you. It's time that you kick 'em right back.
You've got one big mouth on you, don't you? Yet it's me who's closing in. Think I like that mouth on you, won't you? You've overstayed your welcome. Time to go home. Get out of here, Grace.
Hey, hey, so what's the news, Miss Muse?
Miss Muse.
Well, does a muse have a proper form of address? I just want to hear what exciting adventures you've been having.
Well, I went to a party held by the goddess of love, and she died.
Man, I always miss the really good parties. Here I was, sitting at home, just reading a book. Everything else okay, though? Do we know who the killer is yet?
Not just yet, no.
Okay, well, let me know if there's anything I can do. If I have to hustle to become your high priestess, well, so be it.
Exactly how much do you know about the Greek gods, Freddie?
I know my Greek mythology, but what I've read clearly doesn't line up with who they are today. Or who they ever were, maybe.
Still might be useful. There's gotta be some truth to those stories, right?
Maybe? Who do you want to hear about?
Do you know anything about the Muses? Or Calliope in particular?
Yeah, for starters, there were supposed to be 9. Though I guess there are some sources that said there were only 4, maybe 3. Each of the muses had her specialty. Did you know that Calliope is supposed to be the muse of epic poetry? She inspired the Odyssey.
Wow. I don't even like poetry.
Yeah, it was said her singing voice was unmatched. So they got that part right, at least.
Did she also lead the ancient Greeks in giant choreographed dance numbers?
No, but she once turned a bunch of snobby princesses into magpies, so there's that.
What about Athena? Is she really supposed to be the goddess of wisdom?
Sure, but mostly that's meant as tactical knowledge. Athena wasn't all sweetness and light. She was a warrior goddess. She was also the goddess of heroes. There are loads of stories where Athena helps guys like Odysseus or Jason or Perseus.
No female heroes back in those days?
Yeah, guess not. Women were the weaker sex, which maybe is why Athena was portrayed as being vindictive. She cursed Medusa, one of her own priestesses. She turned people into spiders, struck them blind, started the Trojan War. It's the whole thing.
Not being as wise as advertised is on brand for her, then. Just how many of these gods are there? From what I've heard, lots of idols live around here.
Well, there are tons of minor gods in Greek mythology. Hundreds even, depending on how you define them. Oddly, there's never any mention of the word idols in relation to them. Maybe it's like how people worshipped idols?
I sort of assumed it was related to the eidolon.
Which is a Greek word, but I think it means ghost. An image of someone after they die.
Makes sense.
Me? I'm more amazed at all the big names missing. Not just Zeus and Hades, most of the Olympians seem to be gone. Makes you think about what's been lost. But also, what might still be out there.
What about Apollo?
Okay, so the prophecy stuff checks out. Apollo was god of the sun and light, but also kind of enlightenment in general. He's always talked about as this beautiful and cultured god involved with the arts and the muses, kind of a Renaissance man before the Renaissance.
He's clearly had a rough time since those days.
Well, he was also a giant horn dog, Grace. I can list off like a dozen men and women Apollo has had as lovers, and there's probably more.
Weren't they all like that, though?
I mean, Apollo's no Zeus. He never assaulted anyone as a swan. And no, they aren't all like that. Our sun god had a reputation.
Tell me what you know about Persephone.
Honestly, she's the least like her stories. Usually, she's either a victim or just the wife of Hades, or both.
And that's it? She was kidnapped by Hades, end of story?
Pretty much. Her mother was so angry she created winter. But otherwise, Persephone was just your average sweet and virginal fertility goddess.
You're right, that doesn't sound like her at all.
Must be hard to be defined by this one thing that happened to you thousands of years ago. I'd be pissed if everyone thought my story ended there.
Well, she is pretty pissed. That much is true. You said Pan was some kind of lust god, right?
Yeah, kind of. Pan's a god of the wild, and I guess that translates into a sort of lustfulness and earthiness, humping nymphs in the forest sort of thing.
And you don't like him?
Honestly, he's exactly what I'd expect him to be. All the stories say he's a lech and a beast. The Christians equated him with the devil. Weirdly, he's also the only god who's supposed to have died, though it's never really clear how or why. Anyhow, there's a great statue depicting Pan having sex with a goat. Next time you see him, you gotta ask him about it.
You think there might be other gods out there?
Well, there are all those gods the idols say wandered off. We don't know they're dead for sure, right? They could be living it up in Australia. Who would know? Then there are all the other mythologies, hundreds of cultures, each with their own pantheon. So what's so special about the Greeks? That only their gods are real, right? And all those other pantheons could be living in secrecy, just like the idols. And that means they're hidden from each other, too. Oh, they could be everywhere, and no one would know.
It's like a whole other secret side to the world.
Yeah, it's cool, right? I hope I get to meet Ganesha one day. Or maybe Lakshmi?
I wonder how much of those stories are true.
Yeah, it's hard to say. I'm giving you the quick version. There are reams of textbooks out there covering all this, but even they rarely agree with each other.
Really? Nothing definitive?
Ancient Greece was 3,000 years ago, Grace. Not much information survived all that time, if it was even valid to begin with.
You know what I find weird? That the idols have managed to remain completely secret all these years. Sure, they have magic and whatnot, but in all this time, nobody's found them out? Athena is that good?
Who says nobody has found them out? The way I see it, it's like UFOs.
Okay, I have to hear this.
Okay, so you could have real evidence that UFOs exist and that governments have covered it up and people still wouldn't believe it. Why? Because they'd get laughed at if they admitted it. Imagine the headline, "Greek gods exist and are living among us." What website would even run that?
Weird conspiracy ones. Yeah, you're right. What are Kaz and Brian up to? You didn't tell them anything, did you?
No, I told them you came home, that you're okay, but that you're having a moment. They send their love.
Should we tell them, do you think?
What for? They have their own problems. Plus, Brian can't keep a secret to save his life, and Kaz is officially homeless.
Is he still crashing on Brian's couch?
Grace, you do know that Brian doesn't have a couch, right? Just some giant beanbag things?
Then where is Kaz
Yeah, it's cute. They'll tell us when they're ready. But right now, it's best just to not mix them up in this.
I should really apologize about the band. This kind of puts a dent in your plans, doesn't it?
You're right, Grace. How dare you sabotage my dreams? I am so mad I could spit.
You know what I mean. Nobody could have seen this coming, sure, but it's always been something with me.
Well, as I see it, there are two ways this goes down. One, neither of us gets back to the band. It was just a thing we did for a while before I founded a cult in your name. Or two, we get back to it and the band now has the Muse as its lead singer. Edge of Elysium becomes the coolest and most appropriate band name ever.
Ugh, I still really hate that name.
Look, Grace, you can't be the source of all the drama and name the band, okay? That's the rule.
Okay, that's enough questions for now.
You sure? I can talk all day. You know I can.
I'll check back with you soon, Freddie. Time for more mystery solving.
You've returned. I'm glad. I've had time to do some thinking. After Aphrodite's party, we never really spoke about the Eidolon and Calliope's memories. No doubt you have many questions.
Apollo told me a little about it. He did say I should talk to you, though.
Did he now? Is there anything you'd like to ask?
How many times have you died? Can I ask that?
We call it passing on. I've lost track of just how many times I've passed on my Eidolon. A dozen? It's happened less often in more recent eras.
And the one you told me about, the woman married to that gangster? She was the most recent?
I don't think of Chastity as a she. That was me, just as the one my husband blasted with a shotgun was also me. It was one of the few times I wasn't able to prepare my successor. We were friends, yes, but I didn't know what Persephone was, and I had no idea what I'd just become.
That must have been difficult.
It was more difficult taking over my dead husband's territory. Women weren't often mobsters in those days.
Were you really a gangster? I've heard it said, but it sounds...
Let me put it this way. I felt as if I'd been blessed by a dying woman who saved me from a prison of my own making. I didn't know what I was, but I was free. I felt more alive than I'd ever felt before, and strong enough to toss an ox 10 feet. Did I set out to become a mobster? Not exactly. My husband's friends thought I'd murdered him, however, so they came after me. And one thing led to another.
Oh, I see.
Athena found me just as my memories were starting to return. I wasn't permitted to continue doing something so noticeable, so I was carted off to Olympus. It's too bad, really. I was an excellent mobster.
Wait, you said that Persephone passed on her Eidolon as she lay dying. What if she had just died?
The Eidolon will keep us alive for a time, even in the most horrific circumstances, in hopes that there's someone to pass it on to.
What if there isn't? What if Chastity had died before you were shot?
Well, then the line of Persephone would have ended then and there. Oh, there are some stories that say an Eidolon will go wandering, that it never really dies. Who knows if there's any truth to that? It's not exactly something we've had the opportunity to study. All we know is that many idols have left us forever. They've died, and that's how it happens.
When all these memories start to return, will I feel different?
First, you'll have dreams. Places you've never been, people you've never met. But unlike with normal dreams, these will linger. Then they will come while you're awake. Sudden flashes or snippets of déjà vu. And sometimes it will seem so real you'll swear you're hallucinating. If there's anything difficult about the process, is that it becomes hard to differentiate between your life and all these other lives you're now recalling.
It does sound confusing.
Confusing and often unpleasant, as not all the memories will be fond ones. But that will pass in time.
You said it becomes hard to differentiate your life from the others. How hard, exactly? It'll still be me, right?
Oh, how do I explain this? Grace, would you say that you are who you are because of your experiences? The things you've lived and done?
I guess so, sure.
Well, all the things Calliope has done, and those before her, will now be yours. They will feel like a part of your life as well. Thus, they can't help but shape you. The Grace that is now will be and will have done so much more. Fortunately, you don't have to deal with every memory. Each time the Eidolon passes on, the oldest memories fade. and that helps.
Wait, how is it good that old memories start to fade?
Think of how old we are, Grace. If all those memories returned to you with perfect clarity, they would destroy you.
Yeah, but doesn't that mean you've all forgotten so much?
Well, far more than we remember. The further I think back, the more it becomes a bit of a blur, actually. You'll recall important moments. Some will be mixed up with the stories mortals tell, and you won't be sure which is the memory and which is the story. An idol's memory is a series of islands in a dark ocean, and they become smaller and smaller as they recede into the horizon. It sounds dire, but you become accustomed to it. It just takes time, and now you have all the time in the world.
It's a lot to consider, assuming I'll even have time to worry about it, what with the trial coming.
Either the trial will end poorly, in which case all of this is moot, or it will end well, and you will have plenty of time to digest.
Yeah, thanks for the update.
I'm a realist, Grace. It's what I'm best at. Now then, unless you've something else to ask.
I'd like to know a little more about the idols. I am one now, right?
What constitutes a little more in this instance?
Well, what are we? Where did we come from? If an idol is a soul that moves from person to person, it must have started somewhere, right?
Ah, the big question. To which the answer is, nobody knows. I remember the original Persephone only vaguely. Indeed, I'm not even certain she was the original. Was there something before her? How did she get her idol on? I couldn't tell you. Evidently, we wrote little down in those early days, or were forbidden to, and our memories only stretch back so far. Anything beyond that simply isn't.
Psst. Isn't it strange to not know where you come from? For all you know, the idols could be aliens.
Aliens? Grace, you watch too many movies.
Gods are okay, but aliens are just wacky fiction.
Fine, yes. It is strange. Our earliest days aren't the only blanks in our memories, however. We have many. And the last was the day Zeus called us all together to tell us Rome had fallen and we should prepare for war. But did that war occur? I couldn't tell you. The last thing I remember after Rome was 1,000 years later, in the 16th century. I was in a different body, feeling as if no time at all had passed. Athena calls that period the gap. That's what it feels like. All of us experienced it, and not one of us knows why or how.
The gap you mentioned. What was that like? Did you just wake up one day, or...?
I wasn't asleep. I lived. I had lives. I passed on my eidolon. I may have known who I was and what I was, but perhaps I was completely unaware. All I know is that one day Athena came to my nunnery, near Trieste, I think. The moment that I saw her, all the old memories came flooding back. My life during the gap was wiped away in an instant, and it never returned. If someone did that to us, they were powerful indeed.
What about Athena? I mean, she's the one who found you, right? She must have been aware.
Athena woke up on her own, or so she claims, and spent the next century rounding up those idols who remained. Zeus, however, was gone. What became of him, what happened in Rome, we've never pieced it together. It's troubling.
Tell me more about the war. It seems to have had a huge effect on all of you.
That's putting it mildly.
From Aphrodite's song, I know Ares betrayed everyone. What did you do?
Honestly, after my mother was murdered, I barely remember.
Your mother?
Her name was Demeter. Not truly my mother, but an idol who had always cared for me since the early days. I thought we'd be together forever. Then Ares brought those filthy bastards down on us. Demeter was slain by bullets. By bullets. Until that day, I had believed we were untouchable.
Why would Ares do that? Did he get anything out of it in the end, or...
What he got was a final death. A few of us hunted him down and made sure he paid for his betrayal. He choked on his own blood. As for why he did it, who knows? He thought us a lost cause. He wanted glory. He wanted more than we had, living in secret. After that, I don't know. We went from hiding place to hiding place. I didn't even know what Hephaestus had done for us when I found myself on a boat. We might have been gods once, but after the war, we were just refugees, like so many others, fleeing to a distant land.
Was it hard for the idols to come to the New World? It's just a place like any other, isn't it?
Well, it wasn't the place that was hard, it was the fear. We knew we were vulnerable. We knew mortals could and would kill us. Suddenly, there were rules. We had to be secret. We had to stay close together. We huddled in the shadows and quaked each time the mortals so much as breathed in our direction. We couldn't all live that way. Some of us drifted away, faded into the night without so much as an explanation. That's what's been the hard part. Our inevitable decline in a place where we don't belong. We can pass on our eidolons as often as we like, but it will never truly be home.
Tell me more about Calliope. You and her were good friends, right?
We were.
And
if you had told me a decade ago that I would become close to one of the muses, I would have laughed in your face. I always considered them Apollo's creatures. Calliope, Clio, and Talia. Vapid, frivolous gods who handed off their eidolon to any artist who took their fancy. Every time I met one of them, they were someone else. Apollo called them the Sisters of Beauty, no matter their gender. Can you imagine that? That's such a stupid name.
I never thought of that. Do idols change gender a lot?
Well, we tend to seek out successors like ourselves, but it happens. With the muses, it happened frequently. Everywhere Apollo went, they surrounded him like a gaggle of ducklings, just like him to gather his own fans.
If you disliked the muses so much, how did you end up becoming friends with Calliope?
She sought me out. She'd become more and more unhappy on Olympus, so she decided to leave just as I had, long before. Calliope asked for my help, and I laughed in her face. Go ask one of your sycophant mortals, I told her. I mean, surely one of them has some threadbare couch you can sleep on.
Wow.
Typically, she was undeterred. She didn't just want a place to stay. She said she wanted to learn how to be truly independent from an idol who had mastered it. What can I say? I mean, I am a sucker for a well-timed compliment. I took her in. Apollo was furious. He and Calliope were barely speaking, but he was certain she'd come crawling back to Olympus. Oh, it made taking her in all the sweeter.
After you took Calliope in, that's when you became friends?
Oh, no, not right away. I wasn't looking for a friend. What I was looking for was an opening act in the club. Calliope entertained here for years, and then eventually turned from performing to attracting new acts. She was in her element. She and I, we warmed up to each other eventually. She was more capable than I expected, and I adored her furious rants.
Calliope didn't seem like the furious type when I met her. That's hard to picture.
Oh, then you didn't really meet her. She was an idealist, and nobody could ever quite live up to her standards for very long. Her brothers and sisters, least of all. The idols needed to change, she said. They were withering away in the shadows, diminished and unwilling to save their own skins. When I joined the chorus, she expected me to change everything, as if I could single-handedly override Athena. I was to be her champion, and together we would bring revolution to the idols. Well, I was yet another disappointment. She left the club, but I gave her a place to live. We were supposed to stay in touch, but you know how it went from there.
What happened to the other muses? You mentioned 2 others. Were they lost in the war?
One of them was, though not like you think. The day we were to leave on the ship, Talia simply never showed up.
Do you know what happened to her?
We never heard from her again. Apollo thrashed about in mourning, but Talia had been fading away for years. It wasn't a surprise to the rest of us.
What about the other muse, Cleo?
Died long before. A victim at the hands of a mortal man, when she no longer possessed the power to bedazzle him. As I understand it, he kept her in a cage as a pet until her eidolon shriveled up and perished. He was dead before she was.
Ugh, that's pretty dark.
Yes, well, we come by our wariness of mortals honestly, Grace.
Are you willing to talk about Hades? If you don't want to, that's fine. I'm just...
Incredibly curious how I ended up murdering my husband?
That, yeah.
You know, one might think that my hatred of Hades began when he kidnapped me and forced me to be his bride. But honestly, that wasn't it. I hated my brothers and sisters for letting it happen, but Hades himself terrified me. He had a presence. One that forever made him the most important man in the room. And me? Oh, I was nothing in comparison. When Hades began doting on me, trying to earn my favor, I swooned that he might deign to think of me that way. For centuries, I actually thought I was in love, that the kidnapping was the best thing that ever happened to me. It's funny how our perspectives change.
If you got along with Hades for so long, what changed?
I did. I grew up. I was a trophy for Hades. A conquest that he expected to remain meek and unchanging forever. He went out of his way to keep me small. I slowly realized that, he'd always been that way. Manipulation and arrogance behind the handsome sneer. We battled for centuries. I hated him, and I told him so, but he refused to part with me. He declared that I was his and would stay in the underworld where I belonged.
And that's when you killed him?
That's when I killed him, yes. The first time one idol had ever murdered another. Thank you very much.
I'm guessing the other idols weren't thrilled with you killing Hades.
Well, yeah, they didn't know what to do with me. And Athena was furious that the most powerful remaining idol had been lost. See, this was before the war and before all the new rules. The chorus had never once contemplated execution, but they certainly considered it then. In the end, they decided it was better to humiliate me. They ensured I did not benefit from Hades' murder, and stripped the throne I had wrested from his grasp.
Which you weren't happy about.
I asked them where they were all those years while I pleaded for help. I was held captive, and what was I expected to do? What, lie down and take it forever because Hades was more useful to them alive? No. I stopped doing what was expected of me the day I slit his throat. May he rot in Tartarus with the Titans for all eternity.
How did you go from ruling the underworld to opening a nightclub named after it?
I won it in a bet with Dionysus, god of merriment.
Okay, there has to be a story there.
Well, the story is that he was a fool, but a charming one with many patrons. They built him a nightclub as his personal playground. And it was a grand old time for Dionysus in the 1970s, I assure you, but he didn't know how to run a business. By the time disco was ready to die, so was his stupid club. So I offered to make it profitable. If I succeeded, he would turn ownership over to me. He accepted because, frankly, all he wanted to do was drink anyhow. I was successful. The club became mine, and I kicked Dionysus out for never paying his tab.
Sucks to be him.
Dionysus ever sobers up, he might decide to be sore about it, but so far, that hasn't happened.
What's the deal between you and Apollo? The way you two fight.
I've told you how he and the other idols stood by and let me rot with Hades, did I not?
It seems more personal than that.
Okay, there's an old saying that no one escapes the underworld. But that's not true. I did. Once. Not long after Hades kidnapped me. I was homesick, and I missed my mother. Charon took pity on me and allowed me across the Styx. And after that, Grace, I waded through darkness itself to get out of there. Hades chased after me relentlessly, but I evaded him, right up until I got to the very slopes of Olympus. And who do you suppose was the first idol I met?
Uh-oh.
Apollo stood there. I cried out to him, begging him not to let Hades take me, and yet Apollo did as he has always done. Absolutely nothing. Hades was thrilled. And I knew then and there I could never rely on my so-called family for anything, ever again.
That's all I can think of for now. I'll see you around?
Oh, yes. That's where I'll be. Around.